I welcome you to Iceland. You will never travel to a country with such beauty and variety ever again in your life. I traveled here with two goals: to find the most beautiful place and the best one thing you must do in Iceland.
We start our travels in Iceland by going deep into a glacier cave, and we travel by snowmobile on the glacier to get there.
About 11% of Iceland is glacier. These glaciers are huge, so much that you can snowmobile on the glacier, even during the summer. Riding on this and looking at the land afar is incredible, and I just can't think of a better way to experience the glacier than snowmobiling it and going deep into the cave. Now, this glacier is the second largest glacier in all Iceland, and it's called Jökulsárlón. This is an experience like no other. You can walk through the glacier into different rooms. You see how the blue light gets trapped in the ice. You feel and see the amazing textures of the walls. All of this makes for a once-in-a-lifetime experience where you will feel like you are in a different world than you currently live. Traveling deep through the tunnels into the blue heart of the glacier will be something you never forget. The great feature about this ice cave is that it's open during the summer. So if you don't want to visit Iceland when it's freezing cold, then this is a perfect ice cave to visit. The company we use for this tour will be linked to in the itinerary I have below this video. Kirkjufell is a 463 meter high mountain on the north coast of Iceland. Its distinctly shaped peak and its proximity to a picturesque set of waterfalls makes this a prime location for pictures. The way the sun sets on the mountain also drives a large crowd at dusk, but this is one of the many gorgeous locations to get a great landscape shot. Another thing people like to do in Iceland is go on Viking horse rides. After searching for the best horse ride in all of Iceland, I decided this specific one next to Kirkjufell was the best. I mean, lush green landscapes next to a beautiful stream, alongside cliffs and waterfalls, and yes, the gorgeous Kirkjufell in the background. This ride was extremely hard to find, but after months of searching, when I found it, there was no doubt this is where I was going to ride Viking horses. The untouched landscape cannot be beat. The guide was really great and only recently started these tours. It's so new and fresh that as of now, it can only be booked on Facebook. The page will be in my itinerary I have linked to below this video. These horses are the best way to see the peninsula, and I wouldn't book through one of the other more commercial tours. The authenticity and location of this horse ride cannot be beat. I probably don't have to even tell you about the Blue Lagoon in Iceland. If you have spent 5 minutes on Instagram, you are bound to have seen it, and it may be the reason why you first checked into Iceland. The mystic blue water with black lava rock and green moss make for obvious Instagram-worthy photos, and you will definitely see people taking photos like that here. The silica in the water from the Earth's volcanic activity is what gives it the light blue appearance. The silica is also what purportedly makes the water great for your skin. The naturally heated water is soothing and is a great place to relax. There are more things to do here than just relax and take pictures too. There's a bar in the water that serves smoothies for people that don't drink like me. Also, they have a booth for face masks available as part of the admission fee, and lots of little nooks all around to make your experience a little more private. Due to the steam from an area nearby, you will see rainbows in the clouds from time to time, which makes it even more pretty. If you want to avoid a crowd, there is no shortage of hot springs in Iceland. In fact, in my itinerary, there's a map of almost all the hot springs in Iceland. My favorite part was at sunset because the vibe becomes dreamy as everything starts to radiate blue. This is rightfully Iceland's most visited attraction. Either way, I don't have to convince you to make this part of your vacation. Reykjavik is the big city in Iceland. I spent most of my time outside of Reykjavik, but there are at least two noteworthy places to visit. The first is Perlan. Perlan is an exploratorium, but we didn't go for the exploratorium. In fact, we stopped by only to eat at their cafe, which is on the top floor, and it overlooks Reykjavik and the nearby ocean. If you go in the evening, Perlan has a nice restaurant in addition to just the cafe. The food was delicious, but the view is incredible. Prominent in the view from Perlan is Hallgrím's Kirkja, which is a nearby church whose architecture is magnificent. The architect is said to have been inspired by a waterfall called Svartifoss that we will visit later in this video. Regardless, it is a place that you don't want to miss when you are in Reykjavik. Fjaðrárgljúfur Canyon should be on everybody's list of things to do in Iceland. The steep canyon walls with a winding river make this a vista you will never forget. The small hike is gorgeous, and its projecting cliffs make the hike enthralling as you move towards the edge of each protruding outlet of the cliffs. The canyon was temporarily closed for a while after it became popular from a Justin Bieber music video, but now has reopened. These rolling cliffs reminded me of the Cliffs of Moher from my Ireland travel video that you should definitely watch if you haven't yet, as both the landscapes from Ireland and Iceland are very unique, but they both actually have a few similarities as well. One of my favorite things about the canyon are the mossy rock fields that you cross to get here. They are fascinating and look like something straight out of a Dr. Seuss illustration. While this is no longer a hidden gem of Iceland, it still is a place that I highly recommend visiting if you come to Iceland. The hike itself is 1 mile long that ends with an observation platform overlooking the canyon and the waterfall that feeds it as well. As part of your travel in Iceland, I recommend booking Airbnbs close to where you're going to explore for a day or two. They're awesome, especially here in Iceland, and normally provide a more unique experience than a hotel. Like this Airbnb we booked at a ranch in Seljalandsfoss. The ranch has an outdoor hot tub that uses natural geothermal water to heat it. Relaxing in this hot tub is where we first experienced the Northern Lights. They are spectacular, but the camera I use can both take pictures and get video of the Northern Lights. I will post a video with all the best filming equipment that I use at the end of this video. If you're trying to go to Iceland in the summer and still see the Northern Lights, timing will be very important. And still, seeing the Northern Lights can be hit and miss. In my itinerary below, I will give you helpful websites to help you see the Northern Lights forecast. Also below this video is a link to get money off your first Airbnb booking if you have never booked on an Airbnb before. Vatnajökull is the largest glacier in Europe, covering about 8% of Iceland. The glacier has large outlets that protrude like fingers from the glacier. These outlets melt and break apart to form alluring ice lagoons. They are awesome. Kayaking around them is one of my favorite things that I have ever done on any vacation, and in my opinion is a must-do while in Iceland. Just paddling through the water is truly unique, as sometimes the surface of the water is slightly frozen over, and each stroke crushes the thin layer of ice, a sensation that is slightly addictive. Not to mention the views are incredible, sitting in the middle of the glacier, surrounded by mountains and unique icebergs floating in the water. This specific lagoon is called Heiðarbergslón, and its magic is that it is off the beaten path, and unlike the more popular glacier lagoon called Jökulsárlón, you are able to kayak right up to these large broken off icebergs because the icebergs here are more stable than the ones over there. We will visit the Glacier Lagoon in Jökulsárlón later, but kayaking here is a much better experience because you kayak through, in, and around the ice formations. You just really get an up-close adventure with the glaciers here. Now, the ice glacier outlet associated with this lagoon is called Heiðarbergsjökull. and you kayak up to it, dock, and then hike by foot on the glacier for a little while. This is the best way to encounter this natural phenomenon, especially with the surrounding majestic mountains. If there is one thing I recommend that you do in Iceland, it is this. And yes, the kayak is stable and you are in a dry suit, so you keep warm. Now, what's crazy and counterintuitive about Iceland is that while it's covered in ice, it's always swimsuit season here. That is because of the underlying geothermal activity. Then there's Reykjadalur Valley, which has a hot springs river running through it, and it is a great place to relax and refresh. It's about a 45-minute hike to the river, but the hike itself is incredible. The best part of this hike is you pass by all the geothermal water holes that are boiling hot, and each letting off tons of steam. At sunset, the way the light filters through the steam enhances the elegance of golden hour. And that is why it gets its name Reykjadalur, which means Steam Valley. While the final destination of this hike is what people travel here for, the journey is just as stunning. And also, who doesn't love sheep? The country is covered with sheep, but it seems like this path is crawling with them if you want to see them up close. In fact, some of us can't help but try and get close to them. Eventually, you arrive at the river. It's almost sectioned off, so you get your own little section if you would like. And unlike most hot springs, you can even pick the perfect temperature for your liking. If you want it warmer, just go higher up the river, and down further if you want it a little cooler. So you really can find your sweet spot that you like for hot springs. Now, because this place is so awesome, once again, it can get busy, but it is well worth it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sights of a whole river giving off steam. When the outlets of glaciers melt and break off, the water fragments normally create a gorgeous lagoon. However, the lagoon created at Jökulsárlón connects with the ocean, so the glistening ice fragments make their way to the ocean, and then the waves push them back up onto the shore, which makes a dazzling display of whitish blue ice, shimmering, contrasting with the black sand beach below. It also happens to be a place where seals like to dwell. In one of these clips, you can even see a seal that we captured on video here. The beauty of Diamond Beach is that it is never the same. Each day and hour it changes. And these ice diamonds are a spectacle you can't miss if you come to Iceland. Plus, you can have fun with the fragments. You can have your favorite drink on ice. And I recommend you do. So what sets Jökulsárlón apart from the other lagoons is how blue the water is. The ocean water cleanses the lagoon, and the icebergs make an optimal spot for photos. I mean, this place is just breathtaking. Plenty of seals swim the lagoon as well. For an activity, we also kayaked around Jökulsárlón, and it is beautiful. Because the warmer seawater fills the lagoon, the icebergs melt and tend to tip over quite a bit, so you can't get as up close to them as you can at the Heinebergslón. In fact, one large iceberg tipped while we were there. I was too late and I couldn't get it on film, but it was awesome, which also means you can't get close on the kayak. However, the blue water and seals coming right up to your kayak are well worth the activity. There are also boat tours you can take of the lagoon. I just like the private enjoyment and freedom of going by kayak. Seljalandsfoss at 65 meters high is one of the most popular waterfalls in all of Iceland. The water itself is right off the main road and is very easy to get to, which makes this waterfall very popular. However, they have a ledge for taking pictures up close to avoid others constantly getting in your pictures. The thing that everyone remembers about this waterfall is that you're able to go behind the waterfall and enjoy its misty scenery from behind. Be warned though, it can be very misty, and the weather, well, it's called Iceland for a reason. So make sure you bring a raincoat of sorts, because you actually get quite wet and it will ruin your day if you don't. Now, one of my favorite parts about this waterfall is actually another waterfall called Gljúfrabrúi that is just a hop, skip, and a jump away. The waterfall is hidden behind a crevice in the cliffside. You have to hop on a few stones and get your feet wet to get to it. But this dark waterfall with an ounce of light gives it a mysterious feel. And nature really helps you out by placing a huge rock right in front of the falls, making it an optimal pedestal for a photo session, as the light gently caresses your face and head. And in my opinion, I actually like this better than the main Seljalandsfoss waterfall anyway, so there aren't near as many people that go to this waterfall. There is so much hot water in Iceland that it is hard to believe that anybody would want to jump in nearly freezing water. But that is exactly what we did. I didn't want to pass up the only opportunity I will ever have to swim between two tectonic plates. That's right, this is Silfra, which is a fissure formed by two tectonic plates that is filled with glacier water, and that means it's cold. Because the water is from a glacier and naturally filtered through lava rock, the water is extremely pure as well. Underwater is gorgeous as the boulders make this environment that look like ruins from a fallen city. Now the water itself is really cold, but you don't get cold. In fact, it's quite relaxing as the water has a small current that gently pushes you along, almost like a lazy river. Now, Silfra is actually a stop on the Golden Circle, which is a very common place to visit in Iceland. The rest of the Golden Circle we did by a tour company, not because we wanted to take a tour, but it's the only way to get access to its final destination. Stay tuned for that. But the tour is fun because you stop at Geyser, which is a geyser and awesome to watch go off. Then you stop at Gullfoss, which are massively impressive waterfalls. Along the tour, you get lots of information, as our tour guide at least was an archaeologist in Iceland who knew quite a bit about the area. The second to last stop of the tour is the secret lagoon, which has a much more social and friendly vibe than the Blue Lagoon did. And the pool is actually replenished by untouched, natural hot spring water. The Blue Lagoon water is filtered before it goes to the Blue Lagoon. I actually enjoyed the atmosphere at the Secret Lagoon over the Blue Lagoon. But the last stop of the tour is the 5 Million Star Hotel, or the Bubble Hotel. What better place to sleep in a clear bubble than in Iceland, where you can look up and see the stars and the northern lights? I mean, a lot of people travel to Iceland just to stare up at the sky, so is there a better place to sleep in a clear bubble than this? Besides that though, it's a good time being safe inside your tent, if you will, and be able to see all the nature around you. We all woke up in the middle of the night and just stared up at the stars and the faint orange glow in the sky. The Bubble Hotel can only be accessed by booking a tour of the Golden Circle or South Iceland. We chose the Golden Circle tour because it was so touristy anyway. Why not just make it a tour and get to stay in the Bubble Hotel at the end? I bet you have never thought of visiting a hidden valley. I hadn't until I heard of Jane. Here, you literally drive through the wastelands before you arrive at this valley straight out of a fairy tale. Descending the rock stairs in the side of the cliff, a magical land of lush vegetation, waterfalls, ponds, and rivers opens up to you. The way the water trickles down the mossy green rocks feels like a real version of those waterfalls people put on their work desk. And And looking around, I seriously wouldn't have been surprised if to my left I saw little elves walking around. This video just doesn't even do it justice, but it really is magical. I mean, it is unique and serene and so crazy that something so magnificent sits in the middle of this rocky, barren desert. It truly is a secret hidden valley, and this, like everything else, will be linked to in my itinerary, also with a map that you can use to get there. Reynisfjara is the most popular beach in all of Iceland. If you watched my Maui, Hawaii travel guide, you know that my favorite black sand beach is there. And if you've watched my Ireland travel guide, you know how awesome the basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway are. If you were to combine the two, you would get Reynisfjara. The gray basalt columns against the black sand are extremely photogenic, and the rock formations protruding from the ocean nearby are the cherry on top. This is a photographer's paradise. And don't forget, if you look a few miles the other direction, you have a rock archway just sitting on the ocean. No matter where you look, this place is awesome, and the basalt columns are almost like an adult playground. The earlier you get there, the better, so staying in a nearby Airbnb will be beneficial to getting here early for some pictures to avoid the crowds. Vik is a town nearby that overlooks the rock formations of the black sand beach. Now here in Vik is where I recommend shopping, and the shopping people like to do in Iceland is to buy their wool sweaters and other wool paraphernalia. I recommend shopping here because of their authentic wool sweaters. How do I know they're authentic? Because they literally make the wool sweaters in the same building. In fact, we ate at a diner where you literally see both the church and the black sand beach from the same table. You look one direction and you see the black sand beach with the rock formations. Then you look inland and it is green and beautiful with the white church that perfectly crowns the landscape. Skogafoss is a quick stop for a very magnificent waterfall whose beauty comes from its symmetry and its falls to the ground almost on level with the ground you walk on, so it looks like you're just walking straight into the waterfall. Like you can just go right up to it and through it if you wanted to. The outlets of the glaciers in Iceland can be enjoyed in many ways. There is kayaking the lagoon, hiking on the glacier, viewing them from a distance, or you can hike right up alongside the glaciers themselves. The good thing about hiking up alongside the glacier as opposed to on it costs nothing to do that, and you don't need a guide to help you. And you can get really close to these glaciers just the same. Now there are quite a few of these, so I searched one that was a relatively small hike and a secret most people don't know about. I actually don't know what the name of this glacier outlet or hike is called, but I mark it in the Google map that I have linked to in my itinerary. Now the Iceland travel guide that I have is a few dollars. It helps to support the channel so I can make more of these videos and goes over everything you need to know for the trip, like the forecasts for the northern lights and the clouds, the device you need to get internet anywhere in Iceland, maps of all the hot springs in Iceland, and everything I did, including all my amazing Airbnbs I stayed in. There is no shortage of waterfalls in Iceland, and Svartifoss is yet another waterfall. This waterfall is said to be the inspiration for the architecture of the popular church Hallgrímskirkja in Reykjavik. The hike itself is gorgeous with snow-capped mountains in the background. The name Svartifoss itself means the dark falls, and for a good reason. The falls over the basalt columns are amazing and gives it a dark feel as the water crashes into the rocks below. Now those rocks you can walk across and get up close to the falls for some great pictures. And if you don't want to get on the rocks, there's also a platform close to the falls, or you can simply walk up the side to the top of the waterfall. The way the basalt columns have broken down over time give the appearance that the columns are overhanging from above. During the winter, these falls are extremely beautiful, lined with icicles that form in the overhangs. Now, in Iceland, there are historic homes with grass roofs. We decided to forego those and just stay in a house with a grass roof. Now, these houses may not have the same history as the ancient ones, but staying in a house with a grass roof is just a fun experience, especially this home. The inside of the home is luxurious, yet from the outside it looks as though you're living in a modern-day hobbit home. The view is amazing as it overlooks the river nearby. Now there are 3 of these grass-roofed homes, and one is available as an Airbnb, but more are coming. And once again, this Airbnb, like the rest of them, is linked to in my itinerary as well. I stayed in so many great Airbnbs on our trip. Here is the footage of all of them.
Airbnbs will make your trip to Iceland more authentic. I have a discount to get money off if you've never booked an Airbnb before in the link below this video. And you don't need to download my itinerary to click on that link. My itinerary can be found below this video. It's just a few dollars to help support my channel and gives you all the information to book a similar trip to mine. And it took me months to get all the information, and I give it to you in a concise couple of pages for a few dollars to support my channel.
If you are interested in making high quality travel videos, watch my video that comes up at the end of this video, which goes over all my equipment for the best travel videos. It goes over the cameras and equipment I needed to raise my videos to the next level. On my channel, we kind of talk in depth about big purchases that I think you'd be intrigued by. Anything from vacations to home automation, diamond rings, and whatever else. So subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.